Thanks for joining us, my friends. Great to see you here today on our journey through the Bible. I'm Tim, your friend and Bible teacher and a guide through Scripture. Our reading for today is in Jeremiah chapter 49 and 50, just those two chapters. Sometimes people look at the modern state of Israel and think this group can't possibly have a place in God's prophetic plan. After all, this is a secular state. And I understand what they're saying. Although I would say, if you've ever been in downtown Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, as I have several times, it doesn't look all that secular. But it's not a theocracy with Jehovah as the head of state, certainly. But I would have to say, how is this that much different from the biblical account of Israel's history? You remember the Jews in Egypt and their years of slavery to the Egyptians, the golden calf in the wilderness, in the book of Judges. They turned their back on God and ended up serving other nations 13 times. The Jews rejected Jesus as their Messiah during his life. Seems to me that's kind of a pattern. Well, in this chapter, chapter 50, Jeremiah was grieving over the spiritual condition of Israel in his time. He said in verse 6, "My people hath been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray, and they have turned away in the mountains, and they have gone from mountain to hill, and they've forgotten their resting place." It's interesting because this is right um, in a section of the book of Jeremiah where the prophet is actually describing God's judgment on the Islamic nations that surround Israel. And yes, I know they were not Islamic yet because Muhammad wouldn't be born for about 1,000 years, but the nations are the same, which is interesting. And I think it points to the fact that what we see today in the unrest in the Middle East is simply history repeating itself. And then, in this section, though, God turns his attention to his own chosen people. And so they're lost sheep. They're constantly on the move. They don't know where they're going. From the mountain to the hill and back, they never find the rest that they need. And the problem is their leaders, their shepherds. And that these are the people who should be leading them to the Lord. And yet they were just as lost as everyone else. They've forgotten their resting place. As they wander from one hill to the next, the sheep don't realize that their rest is not in a place, but in a person, in the Lord their God. He's the shepherd who will make them lie down in green pastures and lead them beside still waters. But they forgot. And yet, are they really that much different from people today? I don't think so. So many people think God is demanding as people climb mountains to find him, when the truth of the matter is found in Hebrews chapter 4, 9 to 11, where God tells us, "There remaineth a rest to the people of God. For he that is entered into his rest, he also has ceased from his own works, as God did from his. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief." How quickly we forget that Jesus paid it all. There's nothing that we can pay to make our salvation any more sure. Nothing we can do to make Jesus love us any more than he did when he died for us. And because Jesus has completed the work of our salvation, we enter into that rest with him. Why is it people feel like they must try so hard to be a good Christian? Trying to do something to be a Christian doesn't give me any indication that those people are at rest in Jesus when they're still trying to do something that we can't ever seem to finish. After all, when will you ever be good enough? You know it, you never will. My friends, I would say this as we wrap this up today. If you have lost that place of rest and you need to leave Babylon and come back to Jesus, now's the time. Your great shepherd, he's standing, he's waiting with arms outstretched. And I think he's reaching out to you and saying, come home, ye who are weary, come home. Keep that in mind today, will you? Our reading for tomorrow is in Jeremiah chapter 51 and 52. Be there, and I'll look forward to being back with you again, and have a great day, everybody.